Take the deal or be destroyed. The off-camera clash between two leaders that has derailed Ukraine's hopes for peace. They faced off before. Now, new details of how the US president demanded that Kyiv hand over some of its territory or else. That's us here in the UK. The Defence Secretary confirms he's making plans to send British troops to Ukraine if a peace deal is struck. Also coming up, a royal scandal and why Buckingham Palace believes the allegations against Prince Andrew should be examined in the proper and fullest way. The heist of the century, why it took just 7 minutes for thieves to steal jewels from the most visited museum in the world. Plus, drama for the TikTok generation, the fast-paced, low-cost Chinese microfilms getting hundreds of millions of views online. That's all coming up on The World with me, Anna Botting. Hello, good evening. We begin the programme with a reversal of fortunes for Ukraine's wartime leader. Volodymyr Zelenskyy travelled to Washington on Friday, hopeful the US president would finally grant him the use of long-range Tomahawk missiles, which could strike deep inside Russia. What actually happened behind closed doors was very different. A source inside the room describes a shouting match, maps of the front line being scattered, and a demand that Kyiv end the war by accepting the unacceptable. That encounter left Mr. Zelenskyy visibly shell-shocked.
United States support is very important. President Trump's support is important. European leaders, so we don't want to divide it. You know, a lot of circumstances and a lot of people want to divide.
Well, it's often been said that Donald Trump speaks the talking points of the last influential leader that he's spoken to. He had a phone call, of course, with Vladimir Putin hours before he met the Ukrainian president. And it's clear that Mr. Putin is once again back in his ear, because now he's reportedly suggesting that the entire Donbass should be handed over to Moscow. That's a red line for Ukraine and a key target for Russia. Under this new narrative, it is Ukraine that is the obstacle to peace.
Well, they could. They could still win it. I don't think they will, but they could still win it. I never said they would win it. I said they could win. Anything can happen. You know, war is a very strange thing. A lot of bad things happen, a lot of good things happen. I think we'll get there, but it's turned out to be nasty because you have two leaders that truly hate each other. You know, you can't have it all, right? They hate each other beyond all else, and it makes it actually a little bit difficult.
Well, ahead of what could be a crucial Trump-Putin summit in Hungary soon, this is not the message Ukraine had hoped for from the White House. But let's bring in our US correspondent, David Blevins, who's in Washington for us. And you were at the White House for that meeting on Friday, spoke to President Zelenskyy straight afterwards. He said since that it was positive. Donald Trump, though, appears pessimistic, David.
Yes, President Zelenskyy said the meeting had been positive, but his demeanour said otherwise. Quite frankly, he had the same demeanour he had on the day of the infamous showdown with Donald Trump in the Oval Office, and it's not difficult to see why. He had gone to the White House seeking Tomahawk cruise missiles to enable Ukraine to strike deep into occupied territory without going anywhere near enemy lines. He didn't get that, partly because President Trump had asked President Putin the previous day if he thought he should give Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. That is quite extraordinary. And also then, because in the space of just a month, the US President appeared to have moved from suggesting Ukraine could win back all of the land it had lost in the war to posting after the meeting on Friday that he just felt Ukraine should surrender the land that has been invaded by Russia. He is suggesting a line should be drawn exactly where troops are currently situated to bring the war to an end. So I have to say I wasn't at all surprised by reports that the meeting had descended into a shouting match, with the Financial Times claiming Donald Trump was throwing maps around the room that Zelenskyy had brought and using expletives. So right now it does appear that Donald Trump is firmly focused on this second summit that is planned with Putin in the hope that that's going to bring about a breakthrough.
Well, let's look ahead then to that summit. Hungary is the destination. Ukraine no closer to getting Tomahawks and, for a second time, maybe not even invited to the table.
Yes, I think Isolated is the term I would use, or certainly maybe how President Zelenskyy is feeling right now. When he came out of the White House on Friday, he went straight into a call with his European allies. That's why I asked the question, did you call them because you now feel their support is more vital than ever? He gave me that very diplomatic answer that he didn't want to divide Europe and the United States, that the support of both is vital to Ukraine. But it's striking that he is now planning to meet again with European allies in London on Friday, because remember, they've intervened twice in the past. It was they who facilitated the meeting between Trump and Zelenskyy at the Vatican on the edge of Pope Francis' funeral, really peace building after that row in the White House. And then European leaders flew here to Washington en masse in August after the first Trump-Putin summit to make sure there wasn't a deal done behind Ukraine's back. They may be needed to intervene again in the coming days, it would seem, because President Zelenskyy right now finds himself in a difficult position.
David, live for us there in Washington. Thank you. Well, a peace plan may seem further away than ever, but the Defence Secretary says the UK is preparing for the possible deployment of British troops to Ukraine in support of any agreement. John Healey told our security and defence editor Deborah Haynes that Britain wanted to play a key role in Ukraine's future.
You say that you're accelerating millions of pounds of funding to prepare for any possible deployments to Ukraine, and you're reviewing readiness levels. Can you just give a bit more detail on that? Like what scale of money, what size of force, and would they be ready to deploy in 2 weeks, let's say, if Donald Trump manages to secure this peace deal in Hungary?
Peace is possible, and if President Trump can broker a peace, then we will be ready to help secure that peace for the long term. That requires us to invest and prepare our forces to be ready to deploy. Keir Starmer has said, if necessary, he's willing to see UK boots on the ground in Ukraine. And I've accelerated already millions of pounds in that preparation for any possible deployment in the event of peace. And I would expect the cost of that to be well over £100 million.
Well, let's bring now the Ukrainian MP, Alexander Mereshko, who is also the chair of the country's Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee. Very good to see you. You heard the UK Defence Secretary once again in full support of Ukraine. You know, great news, but peace still so far off.
Yeah, first of all, I'm grateful, and Ukrainian people are grateful to the UK for your support, because our parliament has recently ratified an agreement on strategic partnership between the UK and Ukraine for 100 years. It's unprecedented, and we value your support. But unfortunately, ceasefire is not on the horizon for a very simple reason, because Putin is not interested in peace. He doesn't want to negotiate in earnest. And the only way to bring him to the table of negotiations is by applying strength, by President Trump delivering finally on his promises previously made. Providing more military assistance for Ukraine, including the Tomahawks and other kinds of weaponry, by implementing sanctions against Russia and Russia's ally. That's the only way to ceasefire.
Well, indeed, let's talk about that meeting then in Washington at the back end of last week. President Zelenskyy heading there to the White House in the hope of getting, as you put it, the long-range Tomahawk missiles, and left being told to give up the Donbass. You must all be deeply disappointed.
Well, according to the latest statement by President Trump, what he meant that the ceasefire should be along the line which is currently the front line. So he is not officially, at least, talking about the need of exchange of territories, or he is not putting pressure on Ukraine to give up part of Donetsk Oblast. Yes, of course, yes, relations between allies sometimes are difficult, but most importantly is that we are on the same side. We continue to be allies. Winston Churchill once said that there is only one thing which is worse than fighting with allies. It's to fight without allies. Luckily, we have allies. United States continues to be our partner, our ally, and we remain hopeful.
Well, I think it was reported that Zelensky managed to talk Trump round to the current front line being the suggestion, not the whole of the Donbass. Just in terms of, the idea of giving up that remaining 25% of Donetsk, how significant would that be? Because that is where you have entrenched defences, is it not? And if you gave that up, what would that mean? In 5-10 years, Putin could come back for more?
Yes, absolutely. That's the point. And the fact that Putin is trying to get this territory, which is he's incapable to take by military hand, and he's trying to do it politically, sometimes using some people in the entourage of President Trump, it's very telling. It means that he lost. He cannot do it because, well, he understands strategic importance of this part of Donetsk Oblast for Ukraine. If he takes it in any way, it will he will have strategic. It will have strategic importance. It will be much easier for him to start new invasion of Ukraine and to take more regions in Ukraine. But for us, this part of Donetsk region, Donetsk Oblast, is also important because it's a fortress, it's a bastion, and Russian troops are not capable to occupy this territory.
Can I ask you what the mood is like in Ukraine? I think we all fully understand that being asked to give up land, is an affront to your sovereignty. It also means abandoning Ukrainian people. But how do the people feel in the rest of Ukraine now? Is there a real sense that they understand a commitment to give up land for peace has become worthwhile?
Exactly. First of all, from legal point of view, it's absolutely impossible to sacrifice our territories and to give up our territories. Second, yes, this is not only the issue of territories, it's issue of people. We cannot sacrifice, we cannot afford to leave our people under Russian occupation. We saw what happens to our people when Russians come and occupy. We saw it in Bucha, in Irpin, how people are killed, tortured, raped. We cannot afford it to happen. It would be against morality, against the will of Ukrainian people. And I hope that it will never happen.
Alexander Mereshko, very good to have your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us so late there, I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's turn now to a scandal that has plagued the royal family for several years now. This weekend, reports emerged that Prince Andrew previously asked a royal close protection officer to, quote, dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused him of sexual abuse. Now, a palace source has told Sky News that the royal family believes the allegations should be examined in the proper and fullest ways. Prince Andrew has denied any wrongdoing, as our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills reports.
If they'd hoped the statement on Friday would draw a line under the Prince Andrew and Epstein scandal, this book by his accuser, appearing in shops early, has ruined that. The claims of Virginia Giuffre, released even after her death by suicide, now available for a global audience to read. Claims the palace are not ignoring. With a Buckingham Palace source telling me the new allegations that emerged this weekend are being viewed with very serious and grave concerns, with the royal family believing they should be examined in the proper and fullest ways. Allegations that Prince Andrew continues to vehemently deny. It comes after reports that claimed Prince Andrew asked a royal protection officer to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre in 2011, the woman who accused the prince of sexual abuse. The Metropolitan Police said they are actively looking into the claims. While it is morally wrong, Andrew would also potentially have been asking his police officer to put his career on the line by unlawfully trying to access information. There's no doubt that the release of this book was one of the reasons why we saw such a dramatic statement on Friday. And talking to palace sources, they told me it was really seen as the swiftest way of achieving a necessary outcome. But the problem around this story is so much interest still lingers around it, and there are some who still think the royal family have not gone far enough. with questions about the use of his titles. Yes, his statement said he's not going to use them in public, but it doesn't mean he's been completely stripped of them, and there's calls for that to happen. It would take an act of Parliament to remove his Duke of York title and other peerages, but it is possible the King could take away his honours, such as Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order or his membership of the Order of the Garter.
There are always routes for parliamentarians to put forward debates, to find time for debates, if that's what backbench MPs would wish to do. But I think we've seen the right course of action in terms of what the royal family have done so far. But the title of Prince is a title that's held by virtue of being the son of a monarch.
The whole thing for the royal family has been a huge distraction to both their work supporting survivors of sexual violence and wider visits to celebrate and reach out to other communities. Virginia Giuffre's book wasn't meant to be released until Tuesday, but we found 2 copies in a shop in central London. The early release guaranteeing another day of worldwide headlines and further uncomfortable reading for the royal family. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
Well, still to come, Israel receives another body from Gaza after Donald Trump threatens to eradicate Hamas unless it sticks to the terms of the ceasefire agreement.
People want intelligent leaders, but it can be done in a less buttoned-up way.
Have a conversation in the same way that people do at home. Sophie is the best in the business.
If politicians are not answering the question, I'm not going to let them get away with that. This is my interview. Look, this is ridiculous. And there is nobody better to cut through the noise than Wilf.
You did say there wouldn't be further tax hikes. You can no longer make that promise. Mornings with Ridge and Frost. I literally can't wait to get going.
Play it cool, Wilf. Play it cool.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's futures.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Welcome back. Well, it was a difficult start to the working week for people across the globe. A major outage knocked thousands of websites and apps offline, some for several hours. The issue originated from Amazon Web Services, the cloud provider for dozens of businesses. While the internet appears to be recovering, there are concerns over why a problem with one company could cause so much disruption. Well, let's bring in our science and technology reporter, Mickey Carroll, who's here now. Are we any closer to knowing what actually happened here?
Sort of. AWS, Amazon Web Services, have been updating everyone as they went along. So we know the actual technical cause for this. And crucially, it looks like it was a glitch rather than a cyber attack, which is obviously what we've become very used to in the last few months. This is more similar to what happened last year with CrowdStrike, where a problem with the services went down and that caused this ripple effect. But it all started at about 8 a.m. this morning. We started getting these reports that something was wrong. And the finger was very quickly pointed at Amazon. And they went in and had a look at their services and realised that one part of it in one data centre in Northern Virginia was causing this humongous effect around the world. And we're talking thousands of websites, Reddit, Snapchat, Fortnite, Roblox, Lloyd's, HMRC, they all went down. These problems were everywhere. We got hundreds of messages from Sky News viewers saying that they couldn't work because of all of this. It's causing massive impact. But the problem was quite quickly solved. By 11:30, AWS had put a fix in place and started rolling that out. Admittedly, there is still kind of problems. There was a backlog of issues that they needed to deal with that they're still dealing with, but they managed to get that fix in place quite quickly. But it just shows the scale of these kind of problems and how kind of problematic it can be when one company has so many customers around the world. They have millions of businesses that use their services, which makes all of our systems quite vulnerable.
Absolutely. Everybody now, so it's one part of one business, isn't it, to be fair, has left everybody feeling very exposed. So what's the solution to that?
Well, all the way through today, the comment that I've heard over and over is that we need to be more resilient. So a lot of companies now would use a cloud service provider like Amazon Web Services. They essentially offer a virtual infrastructure so that you don't have to go out and find your own data center. You just rent Amazon's. And there are 3 big providers of those in the world. There's Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. And they offer about 60% of the world's cloud services. But if you concentrate all of that power, all of those businesses' ability to operate in 3 companies, when one of them falls over, so does the rest of the world. And so what I've been hearing over and over today is that we need to be building more resilience in, and that can come in the form of using a kind of a more varied supply of businesses to offer those cloud services, but also just having backups in place. So if you notice that your services are starting to fall over, that you can implement your backup that stops that happening. And at the moment, that doesn't really seem to be the case. And so our systems that we rely on so heavily, as we've seen today, are really fragile.
Yes, indeed. It's a sort of frightening day today for many, isn't it, watching on. Mickey, thank you. Well, let's focus now on the so-called ceasefire in Gaza. Today, both Palestinians and Israelis are continuing to mourn the deaths of loved ones, despite the truce agreed in Egypt. The Hamas-run health ministry says 57 Palestinians have been killed over the past 24 hours.
The truce is a failure, I'm telling you. The planes are in the sky 24 hours a day, and Israel has gotten what it wanted.
Well, 2 Israeli soldiers were also killed in an attack over the weekend, according to the country's military. It's not yet clear what happened, but the US president has threatened violent action against Hamas.
Now it's in the hands of others. You know, we have 59 countries that agreed to the deal. We have peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that You know, they're going to be very good. They're going to behave. They're going to be nice. And if they're not, we're going to go in. We're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that. So they went in. They went in, and I don't believe it was the leadership. But they had some rebellion in there among themselves, and they killed some people. You know, a lot of people. But this is a violent group. You know, you probably noticed over the last 100 years, this is a very violent group of people. And they got very rambunctious, and they did things that they shouldn't be doing. And if they keep doing it, then we're going to go in and straighten it out, and it'll happen very quickly and pretty violently, unfortunately.
Well, today, two of Donald Trump's most trusted negotiators, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, flew in to help keep the truce intact. Vice President J.D. Vance lands tomorrow. Well, let's bring in our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons, who is in Jerusalem for us this evening. So sending in his senior team, Adam, and a clear message from him. We're going to go in very violently. Donald Trump, all part of that effort to bolster the ceasefire. Is it clear who the they is that he's referring to?
Well, he's referring to Hamas, but if what he's actually referring to when he says we will go in and deal with them is unclear. The chances, frankly, that the US military is about to go into Gaza and deal with Hamas in whatever form that will take are about zero. So when he says Hamas is going to get eradicated, I think we have to take this as a certain amount of hyperbole of him trying to crack heads together, because at the same time as he's using these pretty inflammatory expressions, he's actually been pretty conciliatory with Hamas in recent times. He's stopped referring to them routinely as Hamas, the terrorist organisation, which is the rhetoric that Israel uses. He has even been at times quite complimentary about them as negotiators. I think he's well aware that the temperature was raised significantly yesterday when 2 Israeli soldiers died, and then in the reprisals, dozens of Palestinians were killed. Israeli government were talking about closing all the crossings, stopping humanitarian aid. There were those on the extreme right who were saying, right, let's just resume a full military attack on Gaza all over again. And then I think phone calls from Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner prior to their arrival here in Israel effectively said, calm the situation. Yes, you can respond, but it has to be a proportional response. And I think the question there was, is it proportional to kill dozens of Palestinians in response to 2 soldiers being killed? And Messrs Witkoff and Kushner have arrived here today to continue those talks. J.D. Vance will be here tomorrow. That's a pretty high-level diplomatic mission at the same time as Hamas has sent a team to Cairo to meet mediators. So that diplomatic element is continuing. The hyperbole of Donald Trump, who of course has got so much skin in the game in this, is all part of that.
And tonight, Adam, Hamas handing over the body of another hostage.
Yes. So this comes to one of the real fault lines, is the Israelis saying that Hamas is not complying with the ceasefire by not handing over all of the bodies of deceased hostages. Now, what the ceasefire says is not quite as clear as saying all of them have to be handed over or that's a breach. It says that Hamas has to effectively make best efforts to find and deliver all of these hostages. I think what Israel would say is you're not doing that. Now, a few days ago in an interview with Sky News, Hamas said, well, we can't find any more, and without heavy equipment, we won't be able to. But actually, subsequent to that, they have found more people. And today, they handed over a coffin to the Red Cross, which was then passed to the IDF, and is now, has this evening been taken to the Israeli Institute of Forensics, where it will be checked to ascertain whether or not this definitely is a hostage. You'll remember there have been previous examples of coffins being handed over where it's been said they contained a hostage and in fact they didn't. Hamas, I think, would say they are absolutely trying. They don't have the equipment. They don't actually have DNA facilities either. And they also point and say, look, while we are trying to find these bodies, so far the Israeli military have handed over 150 bodies of Palestinian prisoners who don't even have names on them and who we can't identify because we don't have that DNA equipment. There is a lot of that going on at the moment. A lot of needling, a lot of accusation and counter-accusation, a lot of both the sides blaming each other for breaches. This ceasefire is holding, but as JD Vance prepares to arrive tomorrow, it is still under enormous strain.
Adam, updating us there from Jerusalem. Many thanks. Well, you're watching The World with me, Anna Botting. Still to come, the race against time to recover priceless jewels from the Louvre. We hear from a security worker who feared the museum was vulnerable.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
Welcome back. Now the clock is ticking for French police to catch the gang of thieves who stole priceless jewels from the Louvre Museum in central Paris. The group disguised themselves as construction workers and used chainsaws to make off with several objects of incalculable value. Now a member of staff at the Louvre has told Sky News that concerns around the former palace's security had long been flagged. Our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, has the latest on the hunt for the criminals behind the theft of a decade.
A day after a brazen daylight robbery, the doors of the Louvre remain closed.
Very, very sorry, you're very unlucky.
Disappointed visitors turned away as police continue to hunt the gang that robbed one of the world's most famous museums.
You can imagine it, you see it in the movies, very well thought, and this is something that happened in minutes.
I cannot believe it. I mean, unbelievable, like chainsaws. Like we were like from the United States, and we could never even heard of such a thing.
Really disappointed. It was like a once in a lifetime to come see it, and now it's like a once in a lifetime that I'm not going to get to see it because the robbery is like once in a lifetime too.
It was around 9:30 on Sunday when thieves used this motorised ladder to access the first floor of the Louvre. Here, they smashed through windows and entered the Apollo Gallery, which houses French crown jewels. Inside, they grabbed treasures, including necklaces, earrings, and a tiara. They then fled on scooters after dropping this crown belonging to Empress Eugenie. Authorities believe this audacious heist was likely the work of an organised criminal gang, potentially stealing for a collector. But this crime has outraged many across France and left them wondering just how this could happen. In a radio interview, the Justice Minister said France had failed, questioning why the museum windows weren't secure and how the thieves could break in on a busy road.
Tomorrow and in the future.
Elise works in security at the Louvre. She says staff feared it was vulnerable.
All of us repeatedly warned about the difficulties we face every day at work. Equipment being in poor condition, sometimes even completely obsolete, coupled with a very drastic cut in staff. We inevitably reached the limit of what we could do to secure the building and its collections.
Police are desperately trying to track down the culprits before the treasures are lost.
A puppet like this is supposed to have a special charm or something, so it's kind of magic.
Alexandre Giachello auctions precious antiques. He says the robbers will need to shift the jewels fast.
To make a tour, if you want to take something about this, you've got to destroy them, to chop the stones, to melt the gold, and that's the disaster of this situation.
And catching the thieves is more than just solving a crime. It's about saving national treasures and this country's reputation. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News, Paris.
Well, let's speak now to Anthony Amore, an art theft expert, investigator and author of the Rembrandt heist. Welcome to you. You've written about this a lot. So where does this stand in the history of all audacious heists then?
You know, audacious is the key word. I think it's pretty high up there because it's just still stunning to me, the audacity, but also the cleverness of using that method to get into the museum, assuming that no one walking to the museum or innocent pedestrians would imagine that they were thieves on those ladders breaking through that glass. Clever and effective, but still audacious.
Well, indeed, the world's most visited museum, broad daylight, priceless jewels taken, a gang of 4, 7 minutes, a cherry picker or a platform, a glass or disc cutter. I mean, it's all quite simple, isn't it, really? Who do you think did it?
Well, it's probably a European criminal gang. They're not uncommon. The idea that it's, you know, professional art thieves like you see in Ocean's 11 or the Thomas Crown Affair, it's not that. It's sorts of people who are do this for a living in all sorts of venues. I mean, they're professional in that sense. And I noted in the interview that just preceded my introduction that it was mentioned, you know, how could they get through this glass? Well, you know, a determined thief, no place is 100% secure. Nothing is impenetrable. So, you know, these were determined people with heavy-duty tools, and they got in. I think what's far more interesting is what time they chose.
Why so?
Well, it was 9:30 in the morning and the museum was already open, right? So you would wonder why not go in as a visitor, smash the cases and run out. No, instead they knew somehow that going through that window and into the Apollo gallery, despite the museum being open, the gallery would be empty. From my perception, the world's busiest museum, if I climbed through a window into a gallery, there's going to be a crowd in there, but there wasn't. So they knew something about visitor flow. They knew what they were doing. They had this very well planned out.
Well, put your investigator head on, if you can, for us. Where do you start? They must have scoped inside first, from what you're saying, possibly. So you start trawling CCTV from days, weeks before. Where do you begin to investigate something like this?
Well, it would be three-pronged. The first thing you do is in any order, these three things should happen immediately. First, everybody that works for the museum should be interviewed because around 80% of museum thefts involve some sort of inside information. The second thing would be a forensic review. You would look at the cameras, as you said, for that day, in particular, days leading up to it, who might have been outside the building and when, license plates, looking at the vehicle that was left behind that they failed to burn. There may be forensic evidence in there or on the tools they left behind, or perhaps on the floor. Maybe hair fell from the thieves. And the third thing is you work your informants that are on the street, because people are talking about this, of course, throughout Paris and throughout Europe. So you're working your informants to see what they're hearing on the street and how that may be helpful.
And what do you make of the items that have been taken? We've seen some of them on screen while you've been talking. We know the Apollo Gallery contained items belonging to France's royal and imperial families. I mean, some people liken this to the Notre Dame burning down. It's upsetting for French people, but specifically the items, why steal those?
Well, the Louvre is a huge target because it's so famous, and the name Napoleon instantly tells you fame equals value. Crown jewels, of course, are going to be valuable, but tragically, these sorts of items, as we're seeing right here, if you disassemble them and melt down the gold and you take the diamonds, even if you don't recut them, there's thousands of them, you can resell those. You can't do that with a Van Gogh. You can't take a Van Gogh and cut it into 100 pieces and sell those pieces, but with jewelry you can. The hope is that the thieves have not yet done anything damaging to these pieces and are waiting to see how the museum responds. The Louvre is state-owned, so it's probably self-insured, so they may be waiting to see if there's a reward offered for these items. Let's hope that's the case.
Well, indeed, losing such historically significant pieces, would it be enough to make artefact and history lovers weep, I think, even more so with the idea that they're melted down, broken up, sold individually as gems. I mean, it really is a chain of history back to what? Napoleon's wife and so on. It's over, isn't it, at that point?
It's incredibly sad. My heart goes out to the people of France, but of course, the people that work at the museum, they spend their lives, their careers caring for and curating and conserving and protecting these items. And it's a very personal loss for them. I know this from my decades in the museum world. So it's just such a tragic loss, but I do think there's promise for forget the thieves being captured. What's important is that these pieces are retrieved. And I do think there is promise for that. We have to hold out hope.
You heard, possibly in our report, a security worker suggesting that they had flagged concerns, including that there'd been a severe cut in staffing. Do you think museums around the world will really be looking at their own security after something so, to go back to our first word, audacious?
Well, typically museums will, every museum does security different. So the first thing they'll do is look and say, could what happened there happen here? And maybe they'll take measures to make sure it doesn't happen. But there's so much to imagine a thief might do. I would be hesitant to go too quickly towards the Louvre, having cut people. We don't know what staff members were cut and how that might affect security. And I can tell you that every time a museum is robbed, people say, oh, the security was bad and we tried to raise concerns. That's just a common thing that people say anytime there's a security failure or some type of theft or tragedy.
Very good to have your thoughts. It's a fascinating world that you inhabit, certainly. Anthony Amore, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, let's bring you some developing news now. Sky News understands that the Israeli football club Maccabi Tel Aviv has decided not to sell tickets to its fans for next month's controversial game against Aston Villa, following safety concerns and much debate, as you know. Well, let's bring in our sports correspondent, Rob Harris. What are you hearing then, Rob?
This is a major development. Sky News learning that Maccabi Tel Aviv will now no longer sell tickets to the Europa League match at Aston Villa over safety concerns. The initial decision from the authorities in Birmingham had been to deny Israeli fans the right to attend the match. The government planned to push ahead with demanding that the West Midlands police do let the Israeli fans attend the game. But Sky News now understands that they will not take up that allocation, regardless of any decision to reverse the ban by West Midlands police. And we're now just getting a statement actually here from Maccabi Tel Aviv confirming our story, saying that it is clear that various entrenched groups seek to malign the Maccabi Tel Aviv fan base, most of whom have no truck with racism or hooliganism of any kind and are exploiting isolated incidents for their own social and political ends. This is a reference to the unrest at the Tel Aviv derby yesterday, largely it seems caused by Hapoel Tel Aviv fans, but also involving Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, which has raised fresh concerns about whether or not the Maccabi fans would cause safety issues in Birmingham. But the Maccabi Tel Aviv statement does go on to say that the fans do regularly travel over Europe without any incident and suggest that any reason our fans cannot be allowed to travel is due to their behaviour is an attempt to distort reality and to excuse the real underlying reasons for the decision to ban our fans. Our fans, the Jewish community, know all too well this tactic and are all too familiar where it can lead. So this statement talks about what they're saying, hate-filled falsehoods, a toxic atmosphere created which makes the safety of our fans wishing to attend very much in doubt. Now, the Maccabi Tel Aviv statement says, it's very long, but the well-being and safety of our fans is paramount, and from hard-learned lessons, we have taken the decision to decline any allocation offered on behalf of away fans, and our decision should be understood in that context. They're saying they do look forward to being able to attend this match, but certainly Sky News first learned that Maccabi Tel Aviv, regardless of whether or not the ban on their fans was overturned, would not accept the allocation of tickets now for this match. It came after the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, said in the House of Commons that the risk assessment that led to this ban was based in no small part on the risk posed to those fans that are attending because they are Israeli, because they are Jewish. This going far beyond whether or not football fans could be allowed into a match. Concerns over the safety and treatment of the Jewish community in this country following the deadly terror attack on the synagogue recently in Manchester. But there will now be no Maccabi Tel Aviv fans going to this match. The Israeli club declining the allocation in this intensely fraught situation that's pitted not only the club against the police in the UK, but also the Prime Minister against the police as well.
Rob, bringing us that breaking news. Thank you very much indeed. Now, they are fast-paced, low-cost and high on drama and being made specifically for the TikTok generation. I'm talking about micro-dramas, micro because each episode is 2 minutes long and shot vertically for the smartphone audience. Our Asia correspondent, Helen Ann Smith, went on set to find out why they're now pulling in more revenue than China's traditional film industry.
An armed heist, a jewellery haul, and a film set with a difference. What they're shooting here is as sensational as it is melodramatic. A micro-drama shot in vertical to target a TikTok generation. It might look a bit basic, but these productions are booming. A Chinese cultural sensation. This is what they look like to the viewer. Mini episodes of about a minute, autoplay to suck you in. Fast-paced, low-cost, and hundreds of millions of views. Ji Dingdong is a producer who used to work in traditional film, but he says this is the future, an innovation to match the age.
When you watch verticals, you can easily binge 5 or 6 episodes on the subway, right? And let's face it, you're barely halfway through a normal TV episode before you reach your stop. So with everyone's busy lives and work pressures, scrolling through verticals at a fast pace is actually pretty stress relieving.
These productions can be shot in less than a week, a highly lucrative format, and there is no doubt it is landing.
The numbers behind this industry are absolutely extraordinary. In just a couple of years, we're talking about revenues surpassing the entirety of the Chinese box office. And the government here has said that over 50% of all internet users in this vast country are consuming dramas like this. But with huge reach and huge revenue comes challenge and opportunity for a system where everything, including cultural products, are strictly controlled.
And there are hints of that here. This place was once a COVID quarantine facility, transformed with government approval. It now houses 200 different sets.
Oh, wow, a courtroom.
From a courthouse to the metro.
There we go, and it moves.
From an operating theatre to an aeroplane.
It's exactly the music that Air China uses.
Yes.
Right.
They made 500 productions last year. And from the private jet, the boss acknowledges the industry does have political value.
The early phase emphasised growth, with the government taking a relatively relaxed but not lax approach. Now, the focus has shifted towards premium production, cultural exports and telling compelling Chinese stories. This aligns with the nation's overarching strategic vision. That's the current landscape.
Indeed, critics say they are perfect propaganda. This year, a huge boom in patriotic war productions, a mass removal of films deemed inappropriate. And there is now heavy focus on exporting this format abroad.
You're still here?
Yeah. Oh man, and that's you.
And that's me. I'm playing the drunk friend who sort of ruins his chance, you know.
Getting in the way of the romance.
Getting in the way of the romance.
Max is an American actor living in Beijing. The demand for English language versions exploding.
So in the past 10 months, right after the Chinese New Year, there was definitely a huge uptick. A bunch of productions decided that they were going to shoot, they were going to produce one a week. Obviously, with money, with eyeballs, with attention comes a degree of power.
The question is how much soft power this industry generates and how exactly China could use it. It may not be the death of old-school TV, but it is a remarkable Chinese success story and one just at the start of its life. Helen Ann Smith, Sky News in Chuzhou, southeast China.
So these short, phone-friendly dramas are clearly getting more popular, and it's not just Chinese production companies making them. The UK is also getting in on the action. Take a look at this.
Storytelling evolves. So must the frame. It's not just video. It's the future told vertically. At Ceasefire, we lead a new era where vertical is the new wide. Each frame designed, each moment composed, not for the feed, but for the future.
Well, that was a clip shared with us by Ceasefire Productions, a company based in London, and I'm pleased to say their head of production, Daphne Turan, joins me now. Welcome to you. I'm loving this idea, but it does slightly feed into our short attention span culture. That's what it feels like to me.
It definitely is. That's where it originated from, and I think a lot of production companies are just finding a way to use that and turn it into an art form, which is quite exciting because at first I thought it was a trend myself. But working in it now, I see that it's not just a trend, it's here to stick, and it's evolving with the times. And a lot of stories are changing. A lot of the productions are looking at it differently. So it's really exciting to be a part of it, definitely.
So why do you think this actually started in China? You know, a place where social media feels controlled and where people have, you might argue, limited access to what they're watching?
I think it's because there is, in a way, it's shorter, but there's more freedom in what you can do and what you can post and a way to be creative. I think it's shorter, but there is more access to, I guess, phones and social media in general than films. So it's easier to just grab your phone out, shoot something short, and make stories with it. So I think it's a way for people to connect with art in a way that is easier in our days right now.
The turnaround times seem absolutely nuts, I have to say. What is the time frame then from start to finished product?
It really depends on the script as well, but what we try to usually do is we try to at least give pre-production. So once we receive the script, we try to give at least 3-4 weeks to pre-production so that we have enough time to prepare the actors, the locations, the costumes, the art, everything. We try to treat it as serious as a feature film or horizontal format, because to us it's not just a trend that is about to pass. It's something that is going to stick, and we try to do our jobs the best. So we try to spend as much time on pre-production as possible, and then production usually lasts from 6 days to 9 days, depending on how complex and how long the script is, and they're usually around 75, 80 pages, which comes to around 55 episodes. So we try to shoot that in, like I said, a week. And then after that, post-production depends on the complexity of the script. If there are a lot of action scenes and, more complex shots and everything, it can take up to 3-4 weeks as well. But sometimes the turnaround is even faster. I've seen vertical dramas get released in around 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So it varies a lot, yeah.
We've only got 30 seconds left. Just very quickly, video killed the radio star and all that. It's shot vertical. Could you ever see it being filmed for TV and you could sort of press a button and watch it instead of the ad break? You'd pay extra for, a mini drama in a maxi drama, if I can put it that way.
Definitely, yeah. The format is changing right now, so a lot of people are filming horizontal and then cropping it to be vertical as well. So that's a new revenue that is being explored. So it's really exciting. There are future films that are being turned into verticals, which is a new format to us. We have done it before, so we're really looking to explore it more as well. So I think it's definitely gonna, yeah.
Apologies, we've run out. I do apologise. I could talk to you for hours about this. It's absolutely fascinating, but we've run out of programme. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks so much.
I'll be back for Sky News at 10 in just a moment.